everyone, welcome back to the Nature Patch. My name is Robin and it is a glorious Saturday morning. We have just had a few days of rain and storms, which we hadn't really had proper rain for quite a few weeks. The garden really needed it. So we welcomed all of that gorgeous rain that we had. Thankfully, we weren't in the places where they had some really severe storms. I did see there were a lot around us, and thankfully we didn't get any of the really high damaging winds or anything like that. The garden got a really nice drink and things are a lot greener around me, which is just so lovely as a gardener to not have to worry about your plants, worry about watering. Scott and I were waking up earlier every morning to come out and water the garden just to keep everything alive. So it's been really nice. But today I wanted to do just a little bit of a catch up about what's happening in the garden right now. A few things that I'm planting. I actually have a whole tray here of plants and plant starts that I've started from seed, and they really need to go into the ground. It's mainly things like flowers. I've got some more cosmos here and some zinnias that need to go on the ground. I've also got some more capsicums, Cape gooseberry, and a few little violas. So I'm just going to be finding places in the garden and filling them in with flowers, because I've said in a few videos that I really want more flowers in the garden, and that has been my number one goal at the moment, is to fill the garden with flowers. Some of the other things that have been happening in the garden, before this rain event happened, I actually did a few things to prepare for the rain. Prior to this rain event, I actually prepped for the rain, and I shot a few clips about what I did to prepare for a rain event. If you'd like a more detailed video on that, it's something I can definitely film. Basically, our soil is really low in organic matter and nitrogen and overall nutrients. Basically, when it's dry, the soil is basically one large big rock, and it really needs moisture to be able to do anything, to be able to dig holes, plant plants, hence why I'm waiting till now to plant a lot of these. But I did end up picking up some horse manure from around us. Thankfully, we live in a very horsey area, so there's a lot of horse manure. I picked up quite a few bags, and what I did with that is I'm doing my in-place composting methods, but with piles of horse manure. It's not exactly 100% fresh. It has broken down a little bit, but it's still a little bit too fresh to be using on the plants. So what I've done in the garden, in the larger garden over there behind me, you can kind of see, is I've put some different piles of manure around and then capped it with a layer of mulch. And that essentially provides a little bit of a hub for all of the different microbes and worms that are in that garden to come to that one area, start breaking down that manure, and then I can spread it out exactly where it is. So I'm kind of minimizing all of the damage to the soil that could happen if you kind of move compost around all the different places. Obviously, I wouldn't do this if I didn't have the space for it. Thankfully, I've got a few beds over there that were coming to an end. The potatoes, I'm slowly picking those out of the ground, but I really want to wait just a little bit longer before I do a harvest video, particularly after this rain. I definitely want to wait a little bit. And I also fertilized the garden as well. So they're both all-purpose fertilizers, but one is the Rich Grow Organics plant food, and that's really great for tomatoes and vegetables, and it's a really fine kind of mix that I find soaks into my soil really easily. And then for the larger shrubs that I have around, I use kind of a more pelletized manure, which just breaks down a lot slower. I think that one is from Searles, and it's again just a really all-purpose fertilizer that's great for any plants in the garden. So I fertilized all of the fruit trees that we have, and pretty much the entire garden back over there. Gave it a nice feed so that the rain was able to distribute all of that nutrients without me having to worry about it. Something else that has kind of been a little bit of a bummer in the garden is, while I love having all of the birds around, and I'm looking at a beautiful, stunning king parrot at the moment, one of the things is the king parrots have basically eaten most of my pigeon pea seeds, which is fine, but I did want to be able to share a lot of those seeds with friends and family, but we'll see how many I get. I still have quite a few left over from my other place, but you know, it's one of those failures, I suppose you could call it, in gardening. I suppose it's kind of a bit of a fail, but also it just makes me so happy that I can feed nature around me. I want to be able to live with nature and garden with nature, and a big part of that is providing food for pollinators, providing food for birds, and not being greedy and needing all of what a plant produces. I would much rather give back to the animals and the plants around me that are providing me with this ecosystem to be able to grow my food. So while it's a little bit of a shame, I think I would much rather have the king parrots flying around, singing me their beautiful, beautiful songs. So I think I'm going to take my coffee and all of these plants and then go and get planting around the garden. Incoming Shadow. And of course, Shadow's going to help me out today. I think he doesn't really like the storm, so he's had a very stressful few days. So now he can come out with me in the garden, we can plant some plants, but absolutely does not like thunderstorms. I think before I start planting though, I wanted to give a little bit of an update on the flower bed that I planted in one of my previous videos. I've planted this bed with a lot of sunflowers, zinnias, cosmos, viola, basically all of my favorite flowers that I know grow fairly well in this area. But I think it needs a little bit of beefing up in certain areas. I want this garden to be full of flowers. Something I have been doing to manage all of the flowers that are growing in there at the moment is I've actually been picking the flower buds off when they form. And that's just because with zinnias, this is something that you'll want to do if you want your plant to get a lot stronger. Zinnias, when it's a warm day, they will just want to shoot right up and start flowering. But I want these flowers to fill out a lot more rather than just focusing on growing upright. It's going to create a less strong plant if it's just growing straight up rather than out, to provide it with a lot more stability. So what I've been doing is just pinching off the flowers, and there's a really good example of cosmos behind me that I'll put an overlay of, where I've been doing that and it's gotten so many more flowers. By not letting that plant grow straight up and kind of want to go to seed, it's instead put out all of these different side shoots in which I'm just getting a lot more flowers a lot sooner. So the cosmos is definitely something that is going to start flowering soon. I've actually just planted dwarf varieties in here, but I have some more candy stripes, I think that's what they're called, that I'm going to plant today, just to give a little bit more height. I love the beautiful leaves of cosmos. They're very whimsical and light, and I think they create a lot of great structure in a flower bed. So I'm going to find some spaces in there and then plant some of these plants. I'm probably just going to plant some of these now and then I will finish it off in the afternoon, just because I don't really like planting a lot of plants in the morning here, particularly when it is a blue sky today and the sun is going to be coming right down onto these plants. They don't have a lot of protection, so I personally prefer to plant a lot more of my plants at night. Alright, so I managed to get all of the planting done that I wanted to, so I will show you what I planted and where I planted it. The garden is looking a little worse for wear at the moment. It's been actually quite a dry day compared to the rain that we've had. I don't really think we got enough rain because everything is struggling a lot today. Also lots of activity going on with the neighbours, mowing and things. Obviously when I start to film that comes out, but I'm just going to show you where I planted all the plants and what I planted. Okay, so we're going a little bit more vlog style. It's hard to do this on this large camera, but if I turn you around, this is what the flower garden is looking like at the moment. What I decided to plant here was just a lot more zinnias. So I planted, these are violet queen zinnias, and I like to do kind of like a wave of different types of plants. So this continues the zinnia wave, you can see them down there, and kind of curves through the garden bed. So these three I planted here, and then another two down here. Oh, actually another three down here. Then behind those, it's really hard to see because they're so small. But I planted some more cosmos here. These are candy stripe cosmos. And I'm just trying it out. This is a Cape gooseberry here. It's really small. You can kind of see it was really struggling in its pot, so I'm going to see how it does here, because it would be nice if it could kind of frame this area as like a corner piece for this whole bed. I also planted 3 rosella plants. So this is, just to give you a little bit of context, at the very bottom of this garden I wanted a row of rosellas, so I planted 1, 2, 3, and the soil here is really bad. You probably would have seen in the clips before, it is very rocky soil. It kind of is just rock hard with a lot of rocks in there. How many times did I just say rock? But rosellas actually do okay in poor soil. I've grown quite a lot in soil that I absolutely didn't think they would survive, but they did, so I'm hoping these will do fine. There are actually quite a few new things in the garden. I didn't get around to planting all of the seedlings there, you can see, but I don't think I've shown you this little trellis that I recently purchased. I have another one over in the other garden over there, you can kind of see it. But up this, I have 4 cucumbers planted, and on the other side, this row here, I've got a row of climbing beans. This area of the garden obviously just gets that full sun throughout the day. So the side where I've planted the beans is the side that the sun hits. So my hope, fingers crossed, if the beans grow up that side, they can provide a little bit more shade to the cucumbers on the other side. Cucumbers do really well in full sun, but not really our full sun of 35 to 40 degrees. They need a little bit more shade, and they can grow really well in part shade with those types of temperatures. Something else I did was I did a chop and drop of some of the plants, the tatsoi that is going to seed and was really ready to come out of the ground. And I just put that around these capsicum plants. So you would have seen those clips. I just cut it up. I just chop it up in really rough bits and put it around those, just because this soil here is quite poor and I need to add some more nutrients in here. So I just continuously do that with any plants that I have around the garden. Planted the orange king zinnias here. So I planted 3 of these down next to my tomato row. And then over in this garden, I planted the remainder of the flowers. I planted just another zinnia here, and this back bed here I have as my flower bed / this is where a lot of the other bushes and pawpaw trees are. So I just planted kind of another little wave of zinnias and cosmos in here, and just did kind of a fill in with this area where I filled in some cosmos up the back and some zinnias down here. So that is pretty much it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed this garden with me style video. I got lots done today, so I feel really productive and I can kind of sit back for a little bit and wait for everything to grow. Definitely make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for lots more garden content. And until my next video, happy gardening everyone.